Welcome to the Philip Corper Show. I'm Philip Corper. This is August 22nd, and this is episode 23 of the Philip Corper Show. I'm really excited to be with you today. I want to talk about the Trump rally in Charleston, West Virginia, which I was so fortunately able to attend. I want to mention things about the rally and an analysis of West Virginia politics, presidential politics through the years. I think it's very fascinating. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the Bob Mueller probe, the situations with Manafort and Cohen, and their guilty pleas. I want to talk to you about what that matters and analysis of that. Also, I want to just talk about the Molly Tippett's story and uh, what that means and the results of that. Trump brought that up, and I think that's really a very fascinating story. And then I'll close with a really neat quote on relationships and marriages and improving them. So first of all, after work yesterday, I was able to go up to Charleston, West Virginia with some friends to attend the Trump rally. It was just a great experience. This is the second Trump rally that I've been to. I went to one in Louisville, Kentucky, which was just a blast also. I think the thing that makes there's two reasons that these rallies are so much fun. Number one, Donald Trump loves them. He just loves them. He lingers. You can tell he loves to just go off script at these rallies. He loves to recognize the voters and his supporters and rally support. That's really fun to be there. The second thing that I really love about these rallies is just the people, being around the people. It's like a club. It was so funny. We had to run the gauntlet there in Charleston at the Civic Center because there were some protesters. And last time in Louisville, they were kind of protesting out by where our cars were. And in the parking lots, you kind of just drove by them. It was really no big deal. This time, the protesters were really close to the entrance of the Civic Center that we had to go through, and we had to walk right in front of them. They were fenced off. There was probably 40 to 50 protesters, I guess. I'm not quite sure. Not very many. And so I couldn't help but kind of walk in front of them. I was pointing to my Trump shirt, 2020 Trump shirt, giving the thumbs up. Looking at them and smiling, maybe taunting them a touch, but I wanted to be nice and friendly. And somebody had love over Trump, hate Trump sign, something about hate, and hate is not a family value, something like that. And he was in the front row, right up on the fence. And so I just walked right up to him as I was walking along. I went right up to him and I looked at him with a smile and I said, "This is not about hate. There's no hatred here. No hate." And I looked at him and smiled with maybe a twinkle in my eye. And he kind of looked at me back, a little bit of a blank stare. I'm not quite sure he knew how to respond to that. And I wasn't trying to provoke him, but I was trying to reach out to the protesters in some small way and smile at them. I mean, I love the Mike Pence quote of protesters that he reportedly gave to his kids and said, "This is democracy in action." And it certainly is. And so these people have the right for a peaceful protest. And so I was happy to share a moment with them. And so it was great. We got there about an hour and a half early. We barely got a seat in the lower level. Then the upper seats way up high started filling in, almost totally filled in. Pretty much any good seat was taken at the Trump rally in Charleston, West Virginia. So exciting to be there. And Donald Trump was really hilarious. Jim Justice, the governor of West Virginia, was up on the stage with him, spoke to us before President Trump and then with President Trump. And Jim Justice is interesting because he used to be a Democrat and governor, elected as a Democrat, and well, he switched to the Republican Party. It's funny, as he was leaving, and they were lovey-dovey, which was great, and as Jim Justice was walking off the stage, Trump goes, yeah, that guy's a big guy, 6'11", 6'11". I won't mention the weight, you know. Trump can't help but get a little funny joke in there. It was just great. Donald Trump was pure Donald Trump. It was great. And the thing that I really enjoyed also was having Jim Acosta there. So he was in with the cameras on the back and the press stage back there, just sitting most of the time, looking down, looking bored, looking around, very fidgety, looking at his phone, looking at himself through his phone, make sure his hair, adjusting his hair, pretty much ignoring everyone else, ignoring the other speakers. He's really kind of in plain sight of the speakers because he's just right across from the stage. And, not taking any time to meet people of West Virginia, kind of a standoffish approach. It looked like he had some security around him. Every once in a while, whenever Donald Trump brought up the fake news or CNN, I mean, he would point right over there at Jim Acosta. And one time Jim Acosta kind of went like this with his hands like, what me? I mean, come on. Oh, it's just hilarious. I just really loved the feelings going back and forth between Donald Trump and Jim Acosta. It's so funny. And you can see why these are the things that we're really upset at when the media covers President Trump in such a negative light. Let me give you one example of that. President Trump brought up the trade with China, and he mentioned somebody in China had a Camaro. He was asked how much the Camaro was. The guy said it was like $119,000 or something like that, over $100,000. And, like, really? And so I read an article today in Bloomberg which mentioned that the base Camaro is like the only one sold over in China. And so this is a Camaro that sells, it's the 4-cylinder Camaro, it's the base model here in the United States, and it costs maybe $25,000 in the United States, probably without any options. And this car costs like $48,000, $49,000 in China, double the cost, which should be outrageous all in itself. Why does it cost twice as much in China than it does here in the United States? And so Bloomberg just goes, well, therefore, basically, Trump is lying. Okay, the car doesn't cost like $119,000. It costs only like $49,000. Okay, end of story. Trump is wrong. They're not going to elaborate anymore. I mean, like, this is, Trump's lying. He's wrong. I mean, I find this very frustrating because we have no idea what type of Camaro was in China, if it was a fancier version, was one with a V8, was it a limited edition, was it a rare one? I mean, we have no idea of any of these things. And so I think Trump's statement, cannot be proven false by just talking about the base price of a Camaro. I mean, it's really almost irrelevant to his story. Okay, we don't have enough facts really, I think, to try to prove it wrong. Trump's point was, and that example was the story of how these countries are being unfair to us. And especially he was talking about China being unfair with taxes and tariffs to make American goods very expensive over there. We already know that an iPhone costs $3,000 in China. It costs $1,000 here. So we already know that there's lots of tariffs and taxes going on between these countries. And Donald Trump wants something fair. So I just think that's a really good point that he pointed out. Being at the rally was hilarious. When we came in, we went to the restroom. We were all talking about the protesters in the restroom, just all of us, just strangers. The fun thing about these rallies is that you feel like you're really in a nice, tight club. I mean, people who have kind of the same political ideas. It's a very unifying effect. I'm sorry, my voice is still a little bit hoarse from yelling at the rally. And so being around all these other people who are so kind, so helpful, so much fun to be at a rally like this because there's a really a unifying effect of this politically. And I think especially there's another effect going on at these rallies is that we get beat up being Donald Trump supporters. Even Donald Trump's using the term silent majority. I mean, to speak up as a Donald Trump supporter, prepare to be ridiculed. As I wear my Trump shirts around, especially in Lexington, Kentucky, which is a very liberal city, like most big cities, the liberals are really taking a hold of them. I have been cussed out wearing my shirt, even if I've got one of my small children with me. So, and I've mentioned before in Hawaii, these three shirtless guys carrying guns were on a trail, and they said F Trump to me using the full words. And because, like, whoa, okay, it's really, the people are very emboldened to criticize you and to ridicule you, even just for wearing a Trump shirt. So this is really, I think, makes these rallies even more exciting because we can kind of, come out and support Trump and not be ridiculed. It's really, it's really a neat effect. It's very unifying. And I think we also want to show Donald Trump that we support him and show the media that Donald Trump has a lot of supporters, even though most media reports, over 90% of them are negative against Trump. Even that Bloomberg article makes Trump out to be a dummy. That's so frustrating about the Camaro prices. So I love these rallies. They are a blast, and Donald Trump loves them. And one thing that he did, one thing I want to do here is just an analysis of West Virginia. And this is something I've mentioned before, and I think it's really big. I don't think we can really underestimate the kind of supporters that Donald Trump is attracting, specifically Democrats. Let's just look at West Virginia and the presidential elections. West Virginia in 1976, you remember who was running for president in 1976? Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, okay? Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford. This is after Watergate. Gerald Ford was actually the incumbent. Jimmy Carter was the challenger, and Jimmy Carter won in West Virginia in 1976, 58% to Gerald Ford's 41%. Okay, so Jimmy Carter got 435,000 votes. Okay, big time victory, slaughtered Gerald Ford. In 1980, Jimmy Carter ran for re-election, and he lost to Ronaldus Magnus, Ronald Reagan. Okay, but in West Virginia, Jimmy Carter won again, 49.8% to 45%. He beat Ronald Reagan. This is West Virginia. So West Virginia is, a pretty staunch Democrat state. Well, let's look 1984 and see what happened. Ronald Reagan did win. He was a very popular president, and he beat Walter Mondale easily, 55% to 44%. So West Virginia turns Reagan Democrat. So these are Reagan Democrats who are supporting Ronald Reagan in 1984. In 1988, George Herbert Walker Bush won the presidency against Michael Dukakis, but the Democrats prevail in West Virginia. Ronald Reagan's popularity maybe was just with himself, but not the Republican Party. Herbert Walker Bush loses in West Virginia. So West Virginia is still votes Democrat, and they did that with Bill Clinton. They supported him 48% over George Herbert Walker Bush. The incumbent had 35% of the vote. And so Bill Clinton wins in West Virginia. It's noted that Ross Perot was running there and got 15.9% of the vote. So not quite enough. Let's see, 40, all of the Ross Perot votes, if they went to Herbert Walker Bush, he would have beat Bill Clinton. But anyhow, West Virginia, very Democratic in 1992. Again, Bill Clinton wins re-election, and in West Virginia, he beats Bob Dole easily. Ross Perot's still running there, but still, Bill Clinton wins 51% of the vote. Bob Dole did terrible. George Herbert Walker Bush beats Al Gore, 51% to 45% for Al Gore. So West Virginia does turn a Republican again, supporting W, and then supporting him again over John Kerry. W won 56% of the vote, big victory there. John McCain beats Barack Obama 55% to 42%. And then Mitt Romney in 2012 beats Barack Obama with a bigger margin, 62%. And then in the last election, 2016, Donald Trump, 68% of the vote, 486,000. So West Virginia kind of goes back and forth, but you can see how popular Donald Trump is now, with most of the people being registered Democrats. This is like Pike County, Kentucky, the very eastern part of Kentucky, right in the Appalachian Mountains, deep in the coal country, that the popularity of Donald Trump is even greater. So I think that's really fascinating. And I think a lot of people are underestimating the votes that Donald Trump is getting from Democrats. I talk to people around, I talk to politics a lot to people. I have not met a voter who voted for Donald Trump who is unhappy with Donald Trump. I have not met one, not one voter. And with the economy doing well and with Donald Trump's policies looking good, stock market's up, unemployment low, I just think that this is such good news for Donald Trump and the Republican Party. On a side note, I do have to mention Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she was saddened that the little restaurant that they used to work at is closing. Oh, and apparently it's closing because they couldn't afford the high minimum wage laws that have gone into effect, which she supports, which she has supported in the past. It looks like her policies put the restaurant out of business, and she was lamenting that. Oh, well, what a bummer. It was great. Donald Trump came out on the stage to the song, John Denver song, Country Roads, which of course mentions West Virginia. Oh, it was just great. It was great. I'm a Rolling Stones fan of their music, and they played lots of Rolling Stones songs, especially that's Donald Trump's exit music. You can't always get what you want. Sometimes the liberals kind of hang on that. But of course, the song goes on, but you get what you need. But you find some time, you get what you need. Oh, I love it. That was great. Good music. Donald Trump is very upbeat, positive, optimistic, and stumping for the GOP, trying to get Joe Manchin, the Democrat senator who's up for re-election, defeated by the AG. So he is really trying to help the Republican Party. Donald Trump's energy is just amazing. Can you imagine Obama or HRC doing something like this? This is the sixth time he's been in West Virginia, and he said he's going to come back to West Virginia before the midterms. I mean, just incredible. And the people really loved that. That was a huge applause line. Another big applause line was with the VA hospital. He's going to fire people who are not helping out. Oh, big applause line. And that he's going to let the veterans go to get care from private physicians if the VA system's overloaded. Big applause line. He supported the police departments. Big support for that. He talked about the NFL and the kneeling on the flag and that he doesn't like that. Oh, big, huge support for that. And of course, he talked about coal, and there were coal miners there up in the front podium with their outfits on, with their helmets. It was great. He reached out to them, looked at them, did a little shovel motion, like he was shoveling coal. Just very riveting. And the arena was just alive. It was electric feeling. It was just really an awesome experience. It's funny, on my Facebook account, I get trolled a little bit by a friend, and she talks about Manafort, ? And Cohen, ? So I want to address that. There's a great story in the American Spectator by George Neumeyer, and the title is "Ignore the Noise. Mueller Still Has Nothing. Let him keep indicting and convicting ham sandwiches. Most Americans won't care." And I really feel like this is so true. Bob Mueller now, I mean, this is kind of an out of control. Let's dig in to all of the dirt, every little aspect. Let's go on a fishing expedition and see if we can find anything out with the Trump campaign. It's kind of frustrating just the Trump campaign is being investigated and the Hillary campaign is not being investigated. It's kind of aggravating that we have to look for Russian collusion only in the Trump administration and not in the Hillary Clinton administration. But I know with all of Mueller's digging around, he has found Democrats that have done, there might be possible wrongdoing with Democrats, but he doesn't seem to be going after any of the Democrats. This is just a probe that is going after the Republicans. This seems very unfair, and I think most people do not care about this. The Democrats, like I was being trolled on Facebook, they're going to make hay of any negative thing on Trump. And so we basically still have process crimes here with Manafort being in trouble with just tax laws, and then with Cohen supposedly admitting to violating campaign finance rules. That is doubtful. It's still not really proven, and that if that's significant, that it's certainly up for debate. So there's really no real new news here. This indictment and convictions really won't, I mean, in this opinion, and I totally agree. I just don't think most Americans will care about this at all. This has got nothing really to do with Donald Trump. It's got nothing to do with Russia, collusion. It's the election results. This is just a lot of digging around in people's stuff and trying to find things wrong. So I don't think it appears to be fair, and I don't think Americans are going to really care. And I just say, this is a witch hunt. And I agree. Donald Trump, I love his tweets, and he's really emphasizing how this is a witch hunt. This isn't fair. And so just a lot of Democrats are kind of going after him. And it is so frustrating that we have elections in this country, but people don't like the results. Well, even an election, it looks like people in the DOJ and the FBI, they were super biased, and they were talking about affecting the results. And so I think that is very frustrating for people like me who win the election, and then these people try to discredit the election and discredit President Trump. So be what it may be, I think Bob Mueller is going to wrap things up probably soon, give out some big long report and talk about this little thing here and there. I don't think the court of public opinion, I don't think people are going to care. I don't think the Democrats are going to use that as grounds of impeachment. But if they do win the House and they do try to impeach Trump, let them try to impeach Trump. I mean, Trump will beat this. Okay, and he'll beat it even bigger than Bill Clinton beat the GOP going after him and trying to impeaching him, but not convicting him. So I don't think I think Donald Trump is winning, and he is solidifying his support, and he's really trying to help the GOP hang on to the House and even pick up seats in the Senate. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, I think it looks really good for the Donald. I think he's doing great. And I want to mention, I did mention earlier this Molly Tibbetts story. Well, some people are criticizing Fox News for talking about the Molly Tibbetts story, in front of the Paul Manafort conviction and the Michael Cohen plea deal. So, whatever. I mean, for a lot of Americans, this difficulty with our immigration, with enforcing the immigration laws that we have, and really the merit-based immigration system that seems to be threatened at this time. And we're having illegal aliens come into our country, people sneak into our country, and then convicted of crimes is really, truly scary. So what happened yesterday is the news broke that Molly Tibbetts was killed by a man who's confessed, and they went and found the body. He put her body in a cornfield, but it turns out he's an illegal alien, and so this has created quite the story. Reminds us of the story in San Francisco of the girl who was shot by an illegal alien also. So this is going to be a story that, a very sad story, but it's a story that's going to support, legal immigration and a merit-based system, so a lot of these bad guys can be kept out of the country, and we can just bring those in who want to contribute to America and build up America. So I just want to reemphasize that I do know that most Americans are they are interested. Many people on the right are very interested in immigration reform, and many Democrats are very interested in immigration reform. So that is just going to be that's going to be a big thing for Donald Trump and his supporters. It's wonderful that I think more minority voters are choosing to support Donald Trump. I know his poll numbers have greatly increased within the African American community, and also with the Hispanic community. These numbers are increasing. So his support is increasing. His popularity in the GOP is like at 85%, incredibly popular. So I really enjoyed the rally and how well and how good Donald looks. It was great. Also, I wanted to mention that Laura Trump also spoke to us before Donald came out. Laura Trump is married to Eric Trump, Donald's son, one of his sons. So she gave a great little pep talk also. So that was fun to be able to see her. I wanted to close out on 2 points. One is that I just finished this book, Passionate Marriage, by David Schnarch. You can actually look him up on YouTube. He does videos. And so he talks about this like crucible thing. He's a therapist. And he talks a lot about keeping love and intimacy alive in committed relationships. It's great. He's very pro-marriage and supportive of marriages and trying to help marriages flourish and improve and get better and not fall apart and not end up in divorce. It's a great book about really learning a lot. He talks about how marriage is the best growth machine. It's a growth machine. It's the best one out there, and I really think that's true. Marriage has a way of revealing your flaws. You can see your flaws in your spouse, and then to have a good marriage, you need to work on figuring out who you really are, what you really want, and working that out with your spouse. I think that's so true. And so I really love this book because it talks about those things that we can work on, basically working on yourself. And he talks about being differentiated, so self-soothing, being able to be mature, and to be able to be receptive, and to be able to give something to your spouse and your children in any relationship that you have. So he really talks about kindness. On one video, just to give you an example, he was asked about Valentine's Day, and he was kind of down on Valentine's Day. He goes, just buying some candy or some flowers for your wife on Valentine's Day, I mean, maybe that's good, but he says something that's better is being kind and thoughtful and loving every day of the year, okay, and not try doing some shortcut. He says we like to use shortcuts, and I think he's so very right about that. It's a great book. Some of it gets pretty deep and technical, a little difficult reading for me, but I really loved it overall. It's just super. I highly recommend it. And I wanted to close with a neat quote from Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, an apostle in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he has this great talk, you can find this on the internet, in praise of those who save, given in April 2016 General Conference. He said, because no matter how flat your relationship may be at the present, if you keep adding pebbles of kindness, compassion, listening, sacrifice, understanding, and selfishness, eventually a mighty pyramid will begin to grow. If it appears to take forever, remember, happy marriages are meant to last forever. So be not weary in well-doing, for you are laying the foundation of a great marriage, and out of small things proceedeth that which is great. It may be a gradual work, but it doesn't have to be a cheerless one. In fact, at the risk of stating the obvious, divorce really happens when the husband and wife are happy. So be happy. I'd like to thank you for listening. If you want to leave your comments at philcorper.com, that would be awesome. You can find audio and video of the show at YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud, and also my website. You guys have a great day. This is Philip Corper with the Philip Corper Show, copyright 2018. Take care. Thanks. Bye.